Chapter 8. The obedience Marcus landed hard. The air left his lungs in a ragged gasp as he hit the damp floor below. Pain shot through his ribs, but before he could catch his breath, the whispers came rushing down after him. "Marcus! Marcus!" "Stay." He staggered to his feet. The place he had fallen into was no basement. It was deeper, older. The air was thick and wet, filled with the smell of iron and rot. Shadows slithered across the walls, though nothing moved. The stone floor was etched with symbol circles, spirals, scratched deep into the rock. Marcus's voice cracked. "What the hell is this place?" The whispers answered in unison, "Ours. Ours. Feed us." Upstairs, Ethan still clutched his camera, standing motionless in the locked room with Lena. His eyes were blank, lips trembling as the voices filled him. "Ethan, record us. Show the world. Stay." He raised the lens, turning it not on the room but on Lena. She backed away, panic rising. His voice was distant, monotone. "It wants me to remember. It wants me to obey." And then, with sudden clarity, he smashed the camera against the floor. The lens shattered, plastic splintering across the wood. Lena gasped. "Why would you?" But Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at the broken machine, chest heaving, as if relieved. The whispers sighed through the walls. "Good, Ethan, good." Meanwhile, Marcus limped deeper into the underground chamber. The walls here weren't just stone. They pulsed faintly, like veins beneath skin. At the center of the room stood a chair, wooden, heavy, bolted to the floor. Shackles on the arms and legs, streaked with rust and dark stains. Above it, words were carved into the ceiling beams. "Obedience is love." Marcus's stomach turned. They tortured people down here. As if in reply, the whispers swelled. "Sit, Marcus, sit." He shook his head violently, backing away. No chance. But with each step he took, the air pressed harder against his chest, thick as water, crushing him toward the chair. "Back upstairs." Lena shoved Ethan toward the door. "We need to move now." But Ethan didn't resist. He walked slowly, almost peacefully, and opened the door. The hallway outside was wrong again. Too long, too dark. At the far end, Taylor stood. His skin hung loose, gray and waxy, his lips peeled back in a smile far too wide. "Stay," Taylor whispered. His voice wasn't his, it was the house's voice. Ethan stepped forward. "Taylor." Lena yanked him back. "That's not him anymore." But Ethan's face softened. "He's calling me. I can't fight it." The whispers surged. "Ethan, come." Ethan broke free from Lena's grip and walked toward Taylor. Below, Marcus's knees buckled. He hit the ground hard, dragged closer to the waiting chair. His fists clawed at the stone, nails breaking. But an unseen force hauled him up. The shackles snapped shut around his wrists and ankles, locking him in place. The whispers dropped to a low, satisfied murmur. "Good. Good." And then the walls began to move. Faces pushed through the pulsing stone's sunken eyes, gaping mouths whispering endlessly. Marcus thrashed, screaming, "Let me out." A face leaned close, its lips brushing his ear. Bleed for us. A shackle tightened, slicing into his skin. Warm blood trickled down his arm. The whispers roared approval. Yes? Yes? Feed us? Upstairs! Lena screamed as Ethan reached Taylor. Taylor's hands shot out, gripping Ethan's face. His jaw stretched, cracking, and from his throat poured not words but a black, writhing swarm. Smoke. Flies. Shadows. It surged into Ethan's mouth, choking him. He convulsed violently, hands clawing at Taylor's wrists. Lena charged forward, shoving them apart. But the damage was done. Ethan collapsed to his knees, coughing, his eyes no longer his own. They glowed faintly, milky white. He whispered in unison with Taylor, "Stay." Lena stumbled back, horrified. She was alone now. The house wanted Marcus below, Ethan and Taylor above, and it wanted her last. The whisper slithered through the walls, soft, almost tender. Lena, stay. Be ours. Her chest heaved, her pulse roaring in her ears. She clutched the broken camera shard from the floor, holding it like a knife. Her voice cracked through the whispers. I'll never obey you. The house went silent, and then it left. Chapter 9. The last survivor, Lena ran. Her footsteps pounded the warped wooden floor as the whispers surged after her, overlapping voices that filled every inch of the house. Lena! Stay. Lena! Ours. Ours. The hallways twisted as she sprinted. Doors opened into brick walls. Staircases curled back on themselves. Windows looked out into nothing but black void. The house was alive, rearranging with every step she took, hurting her deeper. Behind her, she heard the drag of feet. Ethan. His voice was flat, mechanical, repeating the house's command. Stay. 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 She burst into a wide-roomed portrait gallery. The walls stretched impossibly high, every inch covered with framed faces. The Holloway family, their servants, their children, all of them pale, wide-eyed, mouths slightly open as if caught mid-whisper. Lena stumbled to a stop, chest heaving, and then she saw it. A new canvas near the center of the wall. Unfinished. The background was painted. The frame was polished, but the face was still blank, waiting. Her knees nearly buckled. No. The house whispered like a lover. Yours. 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 Behind her, footsteps entered the gallery. Ethan. Taylor lurched beside him, movements jerky like a puppet on strings, their milky eyes fixed on her, smiles stretching too wide. Stay! Lena raised the shard of broken camera, her hand shaking. "Don't come closer." But they did. The whispers filled the room. Now one voice, deep and thunderous. "Obey." Meanwhile, below in the feeding chamber, Marcus's screams had grown faint. His wrists bled freely, the chair soaking it into the floorboards. The faces in the walls pressed closer, mouths opening wide. Marcus's head dropped, eyes dulling. His voice rasped the house's chant. "Stay! Stay!" The house sighed, satisfied. Another soul consumed. In the gallery, Ethan lunged. Lena screamed and slashed with the shard, slicing his arm. Black fluid knot, blood oozed from the wound, smoking as it hit the floor. He didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled wider. Taylor moved in from the other side. They were closing in, pushing her toward the empty canvas. The whispers pressed into her skull. "Stay." Her grip on the shard tightened, knuckles white. She pressed it to her own throat. Her voice trembled but fierce. "I'd rather die than obey you." The gallery went silent. Every painted face turned. The whispers hissed, furious. "No, no. Ours. Ours." The house roared. The walls shook, portraits crashing to the ground in a rain of glass and splinters. Ethan and Taylor shrieked, their bodies convulsing as if strings had snapped. The floor split open, revealing black void beneath. Wind howled upward, pulling everything toward the abyss. Lena clung to the frame of the unfinished canvas, screaming as the suction tore at her body. Ethan fell first, dragged screaming into the dark. Taylor followed, limbs twisting unnaturally until he was yanked down, his face frozen in that impossible grin. The portraits rattled, their painted mouths opening, whispering louder and louder until they, too, ripped free of the walls and vanished into the void. The whole house was collapsing inward, eating itself. Lena dangled, fingers slipping from the frame. The whisper shrieked, desperate now. "Stay! Stay!" Her voice broke, tears streaming as she screamed into the roaring wind. "I'll never belong to you." Her grip gave way. She fell. Darkness. Silence. Then, her eyes snapped open. She was lying in the grass. Morning sunlight bathed her face. The Holloway house stood behind her, quiet, still, its windows empty and black. She staggered to her feet, trembling. She was outside, free, but as she turned to leave, she froze. Through the nearest window, she saw it. The portrait gallery, and there, on the wall, hung a brand new painting. Her face frozen in terror, eyes wide, mouth open as if whispering. Her stomach dropped. Her voice was barely a whisper. "No." From the house, faint and distant, 1,000 voices answered, "Yes." Chapter 10. The house that whispers morning sunlight spilled across the overgrown lawn, chasing away the shadows that clung to the Holloway house. The air was calm, almost peaceful. Birds sang from the trees. A breeze stirred the tall grass, and the house stood silent, unmoving, as if it had never made a sound in its life. The front door creaked open. Lena stepped outside. Her skin was pale, her movements stiff, as though something deep inside her had broken. She stumbled a few steps forward, blinking against the daylight. Her lips moved, whispering words too soft to hear. When she turned back toward the house, her eyes were not her own. They were glassy, milky, like Ethan's had been. The faintest smile curved her mouth. Then she walked into the trees, swallowed by the morning. Inside, the house rearranged itself again. The gallery walls were whole. The portraits were back in place. And there, among them, a new face stared out in Terralina's. Her mouth hung slightly open, whispering endlessly with the others. Time passed. Days bled into weeks. Rain fell. Vines crept higher. The town nearby whispered about the explorers who never came back. Locals shook their heads, muttering warnings to anyone foolish enough to ask. Don't go near the Holloway house. Don't listen when it whispers. Never go inside after midnight, but warnings fade. Fear dulls. And curiosity always wins. One evening, headlights cut through the trees. A van pulled up the dirt road, tires crunching over gravel. The door swung open. Laughter spilled into the night. A new group of explorers stepped out, cameras in hand, daring each other with grins that didn't quite hide their nerves. They looked at the towering house with its dark, staring windows. One of them smirked. Looks fake as hell. Let's do this. The house waited, silent, still, listening. And when the front door creaked open, it exhaled a sound only the walls could hear. A single word, soft and hungry. Stay.